All right, fam, we are back for another episode of the Energy Expansion Podcast. And I have mixed feelings about the conversation today. I'm really excited to share this with you. And as I do so, I like this. I just looked at the clock and it's 11:11 in the morning. That just feels like the angels are here with us, letting us know that this is the right thing to be talking about. And it is time to share this. But again, I have mixed feelings because this feels really vulnerable. Gosh, I have loved how the podcast has allowed me to share things in a way that I don't know that I would just on Instagram or Facebook or in a live video. It truly does feel so much more intimate. And so as I'm sharing this with you, I have notes on my computer, I have my journal out in front of me, and I'm going to have some aha moments right along with you. I know that for sure. As I am verbally sharing what I'm going to share with you today, I know that I'm still processing the experience that we're going to talk about. So where do I begin? The title of this episode is probably going to be something along the lines of, I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I needed. That's what I keep telling myself. And this is in regards to a really beautiful experience that I had. Interestingly enough, exactly 1 week ago. So at the time of this podcast recording, you're going to get this in a few days, but it is a Friday in April. And last Friday, actually last Thursday night, I arrived at the most beautiful retreat home in Lake Arrowhead, which is in California. I want to say it's probably still considered Southern California, just a little bit north of where I live. And I arrived there and met with 8 other really incredible women. And there were so many different elements of this retreat. But the main reason we were all going was because we were excited to experience the plant medicine ceremony part of this retreat. Now, I have learned that plant medicine is a really broad term. And the plant medicine that we engaged with last week was psilocybin, which is mushrooms, if you will. I don't know if they're like ceremonial grade mushrooms, sacred mushrooms. I know there's all different kinds of mushrooms, but this is the psychedelic kind. And that's not the experience that I had, but that's the kind of mushrooms that we were engaging with, that we were using as part of this ceremony. So I want to take you into this. And I do feel like the best place to start is to go back by a couple of months. So I was invited to this plant medicine ceremony by a woman who I love tremendously. She's been a part of my life for a very long time. And she had a plant medicine experience about a year ago with a woman who we are both connected to. Her name is Stevie Wright. Stevie, if you're listening, I love you so much. I'm endlessly grateful for you and your gifts. So this incredible family member, her name is Kimberly. I hope it's okay that I'm saying this. She had a really incredible experience with Stevie at a plant medicine ceremony last year. And because of her experience, she wanted to gather a group of her own women. Something that you should know about Kimberly is she loves her people. Gosh, I have chills and I feel like I'm going to get emotional. I would not be who I am or where I am today without her. When I was stepping into the coaching industry over a decade ago, it was actually a really scary decision. I think any kind of big career change, even if it's for the best, can be scary and uncertain, right? And even more so when you're doing something that doesn't fit into the box of what feels logical or what people know or understand. It was probably 13 years ago at this point. I was going back and forth between different career changes that I wanted to make. And Kimberly is someone who I love, I admire, I trust. And I was really not attuned to my own internal dialogue. So back in the day when I was making decisions like this, I would call everybody who I knew and who I trusted, and I would tell them what I was sitting with. And I would basically say, like, what do you think? What do you think is best for me? I'm so glad that I don't operate that way anymore. But Kimberly, during our phone call, was like, Dani, this whole coaching thing, she knew what coaching was when a lot of people didn't. I think that this is really what's going to be best for you, she said. I can see you really succeeding. I feel like this is what you were made to do. You owe it to yourself to just give it a try. And that one conversation was what I needed, that little bit of encouragement to pursue what has now literally become what I dedicated my life to, and I couldn't be more grateful. So I said we were going to go back by a couple of months, and we just went back by over a decade. I wanted to give you that context. So Kimberly had this experience with Stevie, wanted to bring her people into it, and I wanted to share with you the kind of woman who Kimberly is. So she's going to bring her people along for the ride, and she wants to change lives. I received this text message, probably 6 months ago from Kimberly, and there was not very much information, but it was like, hey, do you want to do a plant medicine ceremony in the early part of next year with Stevie? And I was a yes immediately, like for sure. In human design, I'm a 1-3 sacral manifesting generator. Some of you might be like, okay, cool. And some of you might be like, what are you speaking? What is this weird language? So my authority is sacral, which means I know if the right answer for me is a yes or a no in the moment. In the moment, I don't need a whole lot of information to be able to feel into if something is right for me or not. And so it was an immediate yes, like count me in, let me know how much money to send you right now. I'll sign on the dotted line. I'm all in. I didn't know it at the time, but Stevie had shared with me that the medicine starts working the minute you say yes to your journey. So there's some aspect, an energetic aspect of this medicine that has been working within my life, inside of my body, my mind, my heart, my energy field, honestly, for probably like 6 to 8 months, which is great. Like I'm just now realizing that in this moment. Stevie said the medicine starts working the moment you say yes, and I'm just now connecting the dots at how freaking long ago I said yes and what has been stirred up within me, like inside of me, but also in my external reality, personally, professionally, all of the things. So as the retreat is getting closer, each of the women who were going to be attending had a check-in call with Stevie to just get any questions answered, to share intentions. There were basic things that Stevie wanted to share with each of us around like how everything works. That call was so helpful, so supportive. And so Stevie asked what my intention was. And when I've shared this recently, I feel silly saying it, but there's literally nothing silly about it. My intention was to have an encounter with Jesus. I feel like I have a very strong internal relationship with God and with Jesus. And I've read stories about and heard about people's experiences of Jesus revealing himself to them. And whenever I hear those stories, I get a little like envious. I'm like, I want to feel and see and experience Jesus in a way that feels so palpable, so tangible. And I know that Jesus lives within me and within all of the people and everything. I have a really beautiful window right next to my desk right now, and I'm like looking at the roses that are blooming and the beautiful plants and all of the things. And I know the energy of God and Christ consciousness is in all things, is woven into the tapestry of our experience. And I feel God's love all the time, but I want Jesus to reveal himself to me. So I had shared with Stevie about this desire, and I'd also shared with her that my theme for 2025 is own it. A new frequency, a new energy that I'm feeling really called to step into, not just from a place of like, ooh, this would be really fun, but from a place of almost necessity. Like, this has to happen for you, Dani, this year. Really being able to own and fully integrate all parts of who you are, to turn up the dial on your self-expression and your authenticity. And I feel like that is an interesting word for me to use because I think that people would say that I am authentic, and I do believe that I am, but there are also parts of me that I feel like I'm still hiding, and not in a manipulative way, but just in a little bit of a fear-based way. That same old little internal piece that so many women that I work with have around, am I too much? Where am I too much? Where am I not enough? If I really step into these layers and these aspects of who I am, will I still be loved? Will I be accepted? And I don't think any of that is helpful, but I do think it's really common. And I have a lot of compassion for myself and that part of me, and so much compassion for anyone else who carries those same parts. So I was sharing all of that with Stevie. And I was also telling her I was a little bit nervous around energetically using any kind of medicine or any kind of substance. I was really nervous about what I might be opening myself up to. Shields up. As we're going into this conversation, what does shields up mean? It's a form of energetic protection. I want you to zip up your energy field right now, and you're going to have this bubble of golden and white light around you, the light of God, universe, spirit, and your angels as we're having this conversation. That feels important for me to have you do. But I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't opening myself up to anything dark, if you will. I have had not necessarily plant medicine experiences, but I've been guided by certain people in different kinds of meditations and visualizations and past life regression where I unknowingly and unconsciously, unintentionally opened myself up to dark energy. And how do I know? Because I didn't feel good afterwards, and I didn't feel good for a while. And I worked with healers, and healers told me where the dark energy latched onto me from. And so it was really important that I share that piece with her. And there were prayers that I took in to the plant medicine ceremony. There was a little special coin, a faith coin, a guardian angel coin that I had in my pocket the entire time. And we also had Stevie placed an energetic protective grid over the home that we were in, over the entire property. And we also had an energetic cord in the middle of the room that was meant to take out anything that wasn't serving our highest good. So she had shared with me on the call all of these different practices I could engage in, things that she was going to be engaging in with us and for us. And so I felt really good about this the whole time leading up to it. So we got off the call, and within a few minutes of the call, I realized, oh, well, I haven't told my husband about this yet. And I don't know how to tell him. So I pulled up my Instagram and I sent her a voice note, basically saying just that. I haven't told my husband. I'm not sure if I want to yet. I don't know if I want to tell him before or after the fact. And she sent me back a voice note. This is where I learned that the medicine starts working the moment you say yes. So she sent me back a voice note, and very lovingly, I was a little shocked. She said, if you don't tell your husband, you can't come to the retreat. And I was kind of like, oh, what? Because I didn't want him to freak out. I didn't want him to tell me no. I really wanted to do this for myself. So I was planning on telling him after the fact. And Stevie says something along the lines of, if you don't tell him, then you're going to be carrying the energy of shame and secrecy and hiding into this journey. And she goes, I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for anyone else, because we're energetically connected to everybody who we're on the journey with. And so she said, timing is important, and ended the message by saying, Dani, if you can't tell your husband about this before you come, then this is not the right time for you. And again, I was so all in on this. And so I was freaking out, honestly, for I think 6 weeks. I almost didn't sleep, which is crazy because I sleep really well. Let's be honest. If you check my Oura ring, my sleep score was very high. But if, that term of what keeps you up at night? Nothing really ever keeps me up at night, but this kept me up at night. And as it was getting closer, I want to say the retreat was maybe 3 weeks away. And I was very much in my head and I was like, how am I going to present this? I want to say it just right. I don't want him to say no to me. I don't want it to become a fight. I don't want it to become a thing. And one of my mentors says this thing, and I love it. And she says, if you don't make it a thing, it won't be a thing. Don't make it a thing and it doesn't become a thing. So I'm literally carrying that very simple but wildly powerful mantra with me, waiting for the energetic window. You know how that is, right? You want to have what feels like it could be a tough or confronting conversation. You are aware that it could lead to a little bit of friction, a little bit of conflict. So you want to be mindful about the energy and like how and when you approach the person and the conversation. And there was one night and I felt it. It was like, now, go now. The kids were kind of off doing their own thing. We typically don't eat dinner together as a family because the kids and I eat pretty early and then hubby will get home later. And so the kids and I had already eaten. They were off kind of doing their nighttime play stuff. He was just sitting down to have his dinner. And I slid into the chair next to him at the dinner table. And I said, hey, babe, you know that retreat that I'm going on? And in true Dani and Adam fashion, he's like, what retreat? What are you talking about? I'm like, okay, the retreat that's been on the calendar for like 6 months, the one that I'm going to with Auntie Kimberly. And he was like, yeah, when is that again? Okay. So I give him the details, I give him the logistics, and I knew that was going to happen, that he didn't even remember I was going on a retreat. So I said, there is an aspect of the retreat that I'm really excited about and I've said yes to, and it feels important that I share it with you. And he kind of looks at me. I wish maybe you do. Maybe you're listening and you do know my husband. And so you might be cracking up as you hear this story. But if you don't, we are very, very, very different. That kind of age-old saying of opposites attract. Yes, that applies wholeheartedly to my marriage with my husband, and I love it. And it keeps things fun, and it keeps things spicy, and it keeps things interesting, and it keeps us cracking up. There is so much laughter and comedic relief in our partnership. In the last podcast episode, or one of the last ones when I was doing a Q1 recap, I had talked about the place that we're in right now together in our marriage and as partners. And I really love where we're at. And so he's looking at me thinking like, okay, you're already kind of weird, lady. Like you're already off your rocker. How much weirder is it going to get? And so I said, there's a plant medicine aspect. And he looks at me and his response. So this is where the term plant medicine, I should have been more specific from the get-go because he assumed plant medicine meant ayahuasca, which if you don't know what that is, I'm not here to define it. Go Google ayahuasca. But I've had lots of friends, business besties, mentors. I've watched documentaries about it, and it's much more intense from what I understand than psilocybin. And so he looked at me and goes, why would you want to, I can't believe I'm going to say this on the podcast. He goes, why would you want to crap your pants in front of a bunch of people? Because I think the purging part of ayahuasca, and you can purge in different ways, that's a big element. I don't know that happens with everybody. So I start cracking up and I was like, okay, sir, I don't think you're fully comprehending where I'm going with this. And so I explained to him that the plant medicine that we were going to be working with at the retreat was psilocybin, which is mushrooms. And he was like, oh, okay, go enjoy yourself. And again, if you don't make it a thing, it's not a thing. So literally his response was, oh, okay, go for it. Have fun. Like, can't wait to hear about it. I'm like, that's it? You're not mad at me? You don't think I'm a bad mom? You're not going to tell me no? Side note here, that was so interesting what I just said there. And I've been talking about this with clients a lot this week. The fear of judgment has been coming up a lot this week. I led a few group calls, and one of the group calls that I led, fear of judgment was coming up. And I once heard someone say that what you think others think about you is actually what you think about you. Let that land for a second. What you think others, or what you're afraid others think about you, is actually what you think about you. And I just made this connection. I told you we were going to be processing together. There were going to be ahas and things illuminated that I didn't see before that I'm going to see right now. So I thought that he was going to say no, that he was going to be mad at me, that he was going to think I was a bad mom. What kind of mom? And I'm not saying that you're a bad mom. I mean, I think I'm a great mom and I did it. So this is not about anyone else on the planet except for me. My inner critic is really, really loud. And if I'm being completely honest, speaking of judgment, I didn't tell anybody about this beforehand other than my husband and a few like close trusted friends. And shout out to the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy because I hold nothing back. They all knew that this was going to be happening. But deep down, I think I wanted to keep it a secret. There's the word, keep it a secret, because for a really long time, I had judged people for stuff like this. I didn't understand why they would do things like this. I thought it was silly and reckless and, I don't know, fill in the blank. But over the years, the more I've learned about psilocybin, and I shared this with my husband, that I'm really intrigued by its healing properties, the nervous system healing within just your physical body, but really more importantly, the cognitive healing benefits, how it can positively impact the brain. I feel like after each one of my pregnancies, I have 3 kids, 3 pregnancies, and after each one, I feel like the baby blues, that's a cute way of saying postpartum depression, and the chemical, I want to say imbalance in my brain got more and more extreme. And so being postpartum 3 years after my 3rd kid, it felt like something that I was finally ready to explore. So that was another reason why I had said yes, other than just getting that intuitive sacral, like, yes, count me in. I want to do this with you. And I want to do this with these women. And I'm really curious about the healing that gets to happen with a plant medicine like this. Okay, that setting the scene was way longer than I thought it was going to be, but I feel like I wanted to give you all of that context because the journey didn't just begin last Friday at 1 p.m. when we started the ceremony. There were so many pieces that had led up to that. So I want to take you into the actual ceremony. The part where I say I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I needed. And I have the journal that I was using. So we called it the Ember and Light Retreat. Again, I had shared these intentions with you. I had these intentions for months, but I actually, the day before the ceremony, the night before, we had an opening circle. And here's what I wrote down for my intentions: to encounter Jesus, to own it. What does that mean? To own all parts of me, to dissolve any areas where shame lives within and around me, and to come out of any of the places I've been hiding, to open, to soften, to allow and receive, to illuminate and integrate, expand into my bigness, transform my mind and heal my heart. I wrote down the word wholeness. Wholeness and completion came up a lot. And the last thing I wrote on my journal was to remember the truth. And we were also invited to think about something we were going to let go of. So I wrote down, I'm letting go of old, outdated identities and beliefs. Beliefs about myself, beliefs about what's possible, any beliefs that are no longer serving me, letting go of needing to prove myself, that proving energy. I wrote down bye-bye perfectionism, people-pleasing, and waiting for permission, needing validation. So those are my intentions. That was everything I was wanting to let go of. And so heading into Friday, there's so many layers to this. Heading into Friday, we had breakfast. We had to have an early breakfast because you couldn't eat for several hours, which served me in a big way. And you'll find out why. I was kind of hungry. When someone tells you can't do something, that's what you want to do. So because I knew I wasn't supposed to eat for many hours, I was more hungry than I'd normally be. I wanted the snacks. I wanted all the things. And I'm so glad that I didn't break the rules. So Stevie walks into the door and we are all set up with our mats. We're ready to go. And we do, again, the intention setting piece and choosing some words that we want to carry into the ceremony with us. And we start with a really powerful breathwork session. I love breathwork so much. I thought we were breathing together for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Apparently, we were doing it for 55 minutes. And there's something really powerful about breath work. When you're taking in that much oxygen, it actually does wire and fire parts of your brain differently. So I actually feel like I had a more psychedelic experience in the breath work than I did with that psilocybin, the actual psychedelic mushrooms, because we hadn't taken anything by that point. So I could feel energy moving. I could feel a lot of tingling. I could feel the parts of me, like the old identities, the old beliefs, I could literally see them leaving my body. And the way that Stevie leads this is so powerful. It was really, really great. So that was amazing. Right after that, we drank this clear liquid, just a very small amount of it, known as sass. I want to say it's sassafras, but we were just referring to it as sass. And we were asked to be quiet, like to just kind of be on our own for 90 minutes. Which I understand why, because the sass, after about 30 to 45 minutes, I was very giggly. It's very giggly, very childlike, wanting to chit chat. And luckily, one of the women who I know very well, she was sitting outside and I wanted to go outside. And so we broke the rules a little bit because we were both in just like a fun, childlike, very light, chatty mood, and we were cracking up. It was really such a moment of joy, and what happened felt like an inner child connection. Like we each got to connect with our own individual inner child, but then it felt like my inner child and her inner child came out to play. It was so fun. So that was a really great experience. The breathwork, loved it. The sass, really enjoyed it. Then came time to consume the psilocybin, which was also mixed up as a beverage. It was the psilocybin. I want to say it was probably a powder. I didn't see how they were making it, mixed in with orange juice. I think that helps you metabolize it faster. For anyone who's curious, I'm pretty sure we ingested 2 grams. I'm so excited. And I feel like you're not supposed to go in with expectations, but it's really hard not to have expectations. And I'm like waiting for Jesus to show up. Jesus is going to reveal himself. He's going to be here. There's going to be this light and I'm going to see his face and we're going to hold hands. And really what I thought was going to happen was he was going to have this like sparkly rainbow spaceship and he was going to take me on this spaceship with him and he was going to be the pilot and I was going to be the co-pilot. And we were just going to ride all around all of the planets, all of the dimensions, go to all the places, meet all of the people together. And that is not what happened. That's not what happened. So I'm sitting there waiting for the medicine to quote unquote work, to kick in. And I wrote something in my journal. I'm going to share this with you. I haven't come back to it since then. But as I'm there, like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Medicine, work, 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 work. Do your thing, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. I wrote this down. I said, notice all of the ways you rush. Notice your desire to get it over with, to cross the finish line, to check the boxes as quickly as possible. And for what? Why? Why are we rushing? You are safe. You're safe to be here. Safe to be where you are in any given moment. This is the part of you that's been weighing you down. You're meant to be an example of what's possible when you trust, when you have the courage to move in the exact ways that God calls you to move, exactly when He calls you to move and not a moment sooner. Whew. Did I need that in that moment and right now? Again, I wrote that while I was waiting for the medicine to kick in this time last week, and I've not come back to that until right now. So while I'm waiting for the medicine to kick in, which it did, but not in the way that I thought it would, I keep wanting to say it didn't work, which is so like indicative of certain thought patterns of mine. So anyway, we're in the ceremony now. We've all consumed the medicine. It's starting to kick in for other people. I'm not really feeling it. What I'm feeling, to be completely honest, is I'm feeling a bit frustrated. and I'm feeling annoyed and I can't get comfortable. I don't know if I want to be in the main room. I don't really want to be there. I step outside. I don't really want to be outside. There's people talking. There's other people having really intense experiences. So I decide to walk to the back of the house where my room was. I had a solo room and I laid down in the bed and I just laid there. And I don't know how long I was laying there for. And I had this realization I noticed with my jaw clenching, like really, really, really tight, like almost like my teeth grinding, jaw super tight. I was noticing mostly in my legs, to be honest, I was noticing this clenching, this tightening, this tension in my quads. So I'm laying there like in almost like a fetal position, just so tight, so tight. And I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I think that I was fighting the medicine. There was a part of me fighting the medicine. There was a part of me fighting myself. And Stevie had mentioned that she had another medicine with her, a medicine known as hape, which I had experienced hape last summer when I was in Greece and I liked it. So hape, if you don't know, is a snuffing tobacco. What does that mean? There's this like little contraption and you place one part in your mouth and then there's another little part you place in your nose. You fill it with the hape, the snuffing tobacco, you blow, and then it goes into your nose, straight to your brain, hurts like hell for a few seconds. And then you do the other nostril. Once you do one, you have to do the other. And it just was like really gentle, really subtle, really meditative when I did it last summer. I did it a few times. I would lay down and just kind of enjoy the effects, feel the sun on my body, lay by the water, hear the waterfall that was next to me, and journal for really, like, kind of wore off after 15 minutes or so when I did it last summer. And so when Stevie mentioned the hape, I was like, oh yeah, like it's not something I feel called to do on a regular basis, but like I have experience with that. She specifically said that if we were feeling stuck at any point in time, like if we didn't feel the medicine moving, then to come find her. And that would be a really good opportunity to use the hape. And so after clenching in the bed for a while, like clenching my teeth, tightening my body, I thought, this is not the experience that I want to have. So I walked out to the front room. She was sitting in the circle with everybody who was in there. Some people were outside. And I walked up to her and I said, Stevie, I think I need the hape. And she just nodded and she goes, okay, I can tell. Like, I agree that the hape would be helpful. So she grabs her things and she kind of sets up. We're sitting on top of, remember how I said there was like an energetic cord that she had? It was, I'm like blanking on the exact terms, but it was right in the middle of the room. And it was really acting as like an energetic trash can to get rid of anything and everything that energetically wasn't serving the group or serving the individual using it. So we literally sat down right on top of, it's like this really pretty tapestry. So we sat on top of that, and this feels so vulnerable. Don't judge me. What's that? There's like a trend going around on the social medias. We listen and we don't judge. We listen and we don't judge. Okay? You're going to listen and you're not going to judge. So there's a box of tissues and she has this bowl and she puts it in between us. And I'm kind of confused about what the bowl is. We're sitting like knee to knee. We're sitting cross-legged with our knees touching pretty close. Like this is real intimate, fam. And the bowl is in between us. And so she asks if I've had experience with hape, and I explain yes. And the way that you can serve yourself, which is like the contraption that I used last summer, but there's another way where someone else can serve it to you. So that's what she was using. She had a different kind of contraption. And she explains that if we're going to use it to get the medicine moving, that can take many forms. And so she explained that purging, whether you're on any kind of psychedelic or mind-altering substance, whether you're using that or not, the hape can create purging in different ways. So that's what that bowl was for in between us. And I told her, I went, oh, no. I've experienced hape before. It doesn't have that effect on me. She just kind of looks and smiles. So she does this prayer. She has the little serving contraption and she blows it to the 4 directions above my head, on one side of my face, the other side of my face, and then down by my heart. And she walks me through, she gives me all these instructions. I'm so glad I had done it before. So she goes, keep your eyes open, look into my left eye the entire time, place your tongue at the very back of your throat, kind of. That makes sense. Try it right now with me so you know what I'm talking about. And you only breathe through your mouth. Like, don't try to breathe through your nose. So then she inserts the thing into my nose and she blows. And oh my gosh, this was like 1,000 times more intense being served by someone than when I had served myself when I tried hape before. And there's hape smoke, like a poof of smoke that goes up and it's burning my eyes. And I keep my eyes open. I'm looking into her eyes. And it's so damn intense. So then you have to do the other side, which I was okay with because I knew that was going to need to happen. So it's like my head is stinging. There's this weird feeling in my nose, this weird taste in the back of my throat. So she does the other side and there's water, like not quite tears, but like, you know, when something's really intense and you're messing with your sinuses, water is just kind of pouring out of my eyes. Oh my gosh, I have like the weirdest experience in my throat right now, just remembering it. I don't like this feeling. And so I go to blow my nose and all of the sudden I feel something coming up. And nobody likes throwing up. I don't know anybody who likes throwing up. And so I put my head in the bowl and she places her hand on my shoulder and thank the heavens that I followed the rules of not eating anything because I did. I started purging, but really all it was like small amounts of water. We were instructed to stay really well hydrated. So there wasn't much coming up and out in that moment, but I started purging and I did not like it. I was honestly kind of pissed. But she was explaining that that was how the medicine was wanting and needing to move through me. And I started thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm messing this up. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe I ruined this, right? Because now I'm throwing up. Like the stuff is coming up and out. And so like maybe my body is rejecting this. And I was sharing these things with her. Again, my body is tight as hell right now. And the interesting thing, the comical thing here is she asked us to take 3 words into the ceremony. Fam, my words were soften, allow, receive. So I was basically, I had my jaw clenched, my teeth rattling. I'm like, soften, allow, receive. Dani, you must soften, allow, receive. And it was the complete opposite of what I had intended. And I just couldn't get comfortable. I tried to lay down. Once I put my body horizontal, I could feel like the purging wanted to continue to happen. I'm literally feeling sick as I'm explaining this to you. So I went to the bathroom and I honestly spent like big pockets of time for the next couple of hours. There wasn't a lot in my system other than water, but it was coming up and out. Like anything and everything in my system was coming up and out. And I did not see Jesus. I didn't see my sparkly spaceship. I didn't go anywhere. I very much wanted to have like an out-of-body experience, right? When I was telling you my intention before, floating through the ethers, doing some traveling the astral planes with Jesus. I instead got the complete opposite. I felt very present to what was going on. I felt very with myself. Like I was forced to look at myself. I was forced to be with myself, honestly, in ways that felt really, really, really uncomfortable. And so that was that. That was my experience, guys. After a few hours, I felt like the medicine had run its course, but I wasn't sure because, again, I didn't really actually feel it. I didn't really feel it, so I just wanted to take a shower. I just wanted to wash off the day. I wanted to wash off the experience. I wanted to go to bed as quickly as possible and just wake up to a brand new day. So that's basically what I did. Everyone was kind of still in it, slowly coming out, and I just super soberly walked up to Stevie and said, "Can I go take a hot shower?" And she goes, "Yeah, babe, go ahead." So I took a long hot shower. That felt really good. I was very in my head. Again, honestly, like it illuminated the inner critic. it was that same conversation of like, you messed this up, you effed this up, you did this wrong, you wasted this experience. I really just wanted to get in my car and go home because what I experienced was so far from what I had wanted. I took a shower, I laid in bed, and I basically went to sleep angry, but I didn't want to go to sleep angry. Just angry at myself, angry at the overall experience. Like I have so much love for Kimberly. I have so much love for Stevie. I have so much love for all the women there. I was just really freaking frustrated. And I remember laying there and my last thoughts were, what if this was exactly right? What if you didn't mess this up? What if this was perfect? What if this is actually exactly what you need? And I remember thinking as I'm like falling asleep, yeah, that feels good. That at least, like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to think right now, but that feels like what I want. That feels like the most supportive, expansive, and empowering narrative. So that's the narrative I'm going to take on. This was exactly right. This unfolded exactly as it was meant to. I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, this was perfect. This is what I needed. This is what I needed. This is what I needed. So I woke up the next day, little hints of frustration still floating around, but really tapped into that new narrative. Okay, you didn't necessarily get what you wanted, but what if you got what you needed? What if you met Jesus? Still to this day, I'm trying to convince myself that I met Jesus and I do not see it. Maybe I'll see it later on. But what's really interesting is, I was talking about what I wanted to let go of was the old beliefs, the old identities, anything and everything that wasn't supporting me. And it's interesting because at the beginning of the ceremony, when we were sharing what we wanted to let go of, I literally used my hands and I reached behind me and I said, I feel like I have a death grip on this old version of myself and I'm ready to let go of it. Be mindful of your final words. Those were my last words before we went into ceremony. And so I really feel like the physical purging was so much more than just throwing up water. It really does feel like it represents an emotional and energetic release. If you would listen to one of my podcast episodes, actually the Q1 reflection, which I referenced earlier today, I had talked about this like extra 20 pounds, this weight that I'm carrying on my body that is so much more than just a few extra pounds. I am very keenly aware to the fact that it is some form of energetic and emotional weight. And even more than that, it feels like it's some sort of internal protective mechanism. Without even trying, I have lost 4 pounds in a week. I've lost 4 pounds doing the same things, like continuing to eat clean, continuing to drink my water, continuing to do my Pilates on-demand workouts. And I think that there's something there. So I definitely feel like I got what I needed. I didn't necessarily get what I wanted. And I was sharing with Stevie, I was a little teary the morning after as I was sharing this with her. And she asked me, she goes, well, Dani, what did you really want? And I told her that vision because I hadn't told her that specific vision before. And she goes, I think what happened was you needed to release whatever is stopping you from connecting to Jesus in the way that you desire. And I think she's exactly right. So that was my journey. That was my journey, fam. I didn't get what I wanted, but I know for certain that I got what I needed. And I feel like there's still a lot integrating. Stevie had mentioned that after a plant medicine ceremony like the one we had done, the impact of the neuroplasticity, which is something I love talking about, it's the fact that our brain is malleable. We can change our brain, that it's easier to change your brain to create new neural pathways to tap into that neuroplasticity. There's like a softness in your mind and like an openness and willingness to change your mind to really truly be transformed 10 days after the journey. And I do feel like there's been ahas and breakthroughs and holy shifts, really big and little. And as I told you in the beginning, and you even heard me have some micro aha moments here. And when I've shared this experience with some close loved ones, I've had even more aha moments, things that I've found for myself and things that other people have reflected to me. And what's also interesting, I'm like, how do I even end an episode like this? Like, I want to end on a uptick, on a good note. And there's nothing bad about this. Contrary to what I believed in the moment this time last week in the ceremony, there's really nothing bad about this. One of my clients who's actually experienced, she wasn't there, but she has experienced plant medicine ceremonies, specifically with Stevie. When I was sharing this with her, she said, wow, I think the medicine only gives you what you can handle. And she goes, Dani, you can handle a lot, which I will take as a compliment, but also like, do I have to be so extra? Do I have to be the most all of the time? I really hope not. And this is going to be ideally a shift in that trajectory. But in closing, I just want to say thank you. If you're still listening, this is hands down going to be our longest podcast episode yet. If you're still here, thank you for listening. Thank you for seeing me in this. We listen and we don't judge. Please don't judge me the way that I used to judge people around this. And my deepest intention is I hope that nothing about this scared you. I'm not scared. I feel really good. I feel really integrated. At the end of the ceremony, the next morning when we were closing out, remember at the very beginning, we were asked to choose 3 words. And my words, funny enough, were soften, allow, receive. Clearly, there's still work for me to do around those words and those themes. But the next morning, we had our closeout ceremony, and my words were gratitude, wholeness, and completion. Gratitude, wholeness, and completion. Other side note, it is not lost on me that all of that purging, all of that letting go, all of that releasing happened on the full moon. If you don't know, the full moon is intended for releasing, letting go. We burn shit, right? That we don't want to carry anymore. So I purged. We did burn shit at our closing ceremony, actually. And so I think that there was a part of my energetic body that was really tapped into, and let's just say optimizing. I love being optimized and effective and efficient. And my body was doing that, was being really efficient with its cleansing process. So I'm super grateful for that. Kind of joking, but also mostly super serious. And I don't want to scare anybody. I think I had opened up a loop, but I didn't close it. This is not to scare anybody. If you feel the intuitive nudge to explore whatever kind of plant medicine ceremonies, or if you feel intuitively called to explore any kind of plant medicine that's calling to you, I want to invite you to really lean into that. And you may or may not be surprised that I am open to having another plant medicine experience with psilocybin. I would love to do it with Stevie again. And I would trust that in the future, if this is something that I partake in again, which it's likely I will, not anytime soon, I'll trust that the medicine will meet me where I am in that moment, and that I'll get hopefully what I want and what I need. But again, if I don't get what I want, then I'm going to trust that I'm going to get what I need again and again and again and again. And for that, I'm forever grateful. So speaking of forever grateful, I'm super grateful for you. I love you so much. If you have questions, send me a DM. We listen and we don't judge. Okay? Okay. I love you so much, and I'll see you next time. Hey, are you still there? So I know based on everything I just said, you probably thought the episode was over. And so did I. But boy, was I wrong. I have got to fill you in. So I recorded everything you just listened to, if you remember, exactly 1 week after the plant medicine ceremony, the whole experience that I just got done telling you about. And I did that sometime in the middle of the day on Friday. I don't know if I had an awareness around this or if I spoke about it because it was a few days ago now, but I happened to record this not only 1 week after the plant medicine ceremony, but on a really powerful and important day in the spiritual community, a day known as Good Friday, wrapping up what is often referred to as Holy Week. And Good Friday is such an interesting term because in so many ways, it was actually a heartbreaking Friday. If you don't know the backstory, and I'm not here to preach anything, but essentially, Good Friday is the day where, after several days and a really long journey of Jesus carrying the weight of his own physical cross, the same cross that he was going to be essentially nailed up onto, that all happened on Friday. The crucifixion, the moment where Jesus willingly gave his life, I believe this, for you and I, happened on Friday. And so I got done recording that podcast episode. I was wrapping up spring break with my kids, decided to take them to the park. And while I was at the park, I got this intuitive nudge to be somewhere. And it's really interesting because I can think of, there's probably more than just two, but I can think of two other instances in my life, really big pivotal moments where almost last minute, it's kind of like inconvenient, which I think is really interesting. And I think it's part of it when we get that call from God, when we get that intuitive nudge to do something. I think it's actually common for it to be inconvenient. Why? Because it really means that we have to take that yes seriously. Sometimes it might mean that it feels like we have to move mountains to make that happen. And now that sounds a little dramatic, but when you've got 3 kids and you've got plans and your calendar is full, making last minute changes can sometimes feel like moving mountains. So I'm at the park with my kids. I look at the clock on my phone and it's 6:00 in the evening. And I remember a girlfriend of mine mentioned something about a Good Friday service happening at 7 p.m. And I wasn't planning on going. I go to church every Easter Sunday. I had never attended a Good Friday service, not for any other reason. Honestly, I didn't know that Good Friday service was a thing. If it is, it wasn't on my radar until my 38th year of life, my 38th Holy Week. And all of a sudden, I get this strong knowing that I am supposed to be at that service. So I quickly call my husband. I'm out at the park with 2 of my kids. My husband is running errands with one of my other daughters. And I say, hey, babe, I know that this is not ideal, but something inside of me is telling me that I need to go to church tonight. And it's at 7:00. I really want to go to this service. Is there any way you think you can be home in 45 minutes or so? He's like, it's going to be tight, but I think I can. And I said, all right, okay. If you can't make it, I totally understand. I'll take it as a sign that I'm not supposed to go. And I get that this is a big ask and this is last minute. So if you can make it, great. And if you can't, no problem. My bad for giving you such little notice. So I go home with my 2 other kids, get myself, change my clothes, get myself ready for church. And sure enough, he gets home just in time for me to leave the house. So luckily, where I attend church, where the service was going to be, is just a few minutes away. So I get there, pull in, walk into the building. I was so excited about this. And I knew this was going to be a really special experience. My body was buzzing. And even just sharing this with you, my body is still buzzing. So as we're getting ready to get started, I want to remind you, I read my journal entry to you of my intentions for the plant medicine ceremony. Do you remember there was a bunch of words, lots of different intentions, but there was one thing that was at the very top, what I wrote first. Maybe you remember. If you don't, what I wrote down was encounter Jesus. Those were the first words that I wrote down. That was what I was carrying into that plant medicine ceremony. And I've got to tell you that at the end of the ceremony, if you remember, I went through all kinds of highs and lows and landed in a place of acceptance. And I kept saying all week long, that day, and then all last week, I kept saying I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I needed. And I felt okay with that. And I was completely detached from anything else. But in that closing ceremony, Stevie, who had led the experience, and also the 2 other women in the group, there were 2 other women who had experienced the psilocybin mushroom plant medicine before. They said something that stuck with me. They said, sometimes the magic of the medicine, in fact, often the magic of the medicine happens the days, weeks, and months after your journey. So the journey feels like it's ending as we're in this closing circle, but in so many ways, it's really just beginning. And that is important here for the sake of this story. So we're back inside of the church, and the very first thing the pastor says, I kid you not, word for word, he grabs the microphone, and the way that he welcomes us into the space is he says, the intention tonight is to have an encounter with Jesus. Tears start slowly pouring down my eyes, and I'm so excited. And he even said, tonight is not a normal church service. Tonight is a time to praise and a time to worship, which I was really excited about, again, because there's something about worship music that just stirs up something inside of my soul. And I was really excited to just get there and get to sing and praise with a bunch of other people who love Jesus. That in of itself would have been enough in my book, even just hearing the pastor say those words. The intention tonight is to have an encounter with Jesus. I was like, okay, cool. Got it. Got it. So as the night goes on, it's so lovely. It's so beautiful. We're about 3/4 of the way through the evening. And again, it's Good Friday. It's the day that the crucifixion of Jesus happened. That's what that day represents, when he was nailed on the cross. And so the pastor walks out in between two of the songs, and he has a hand full of nails, these large black nails. Very similar, kind of on a smaller scale, but not like the kind of nail that you would put in your wall to hang up a picture. Like a nail that's a good 3 to 4 inches long and shaped very different than what you would think of when you say a nail. So when you think of like old school, hanging someone on a cross, as morbid as that is, it's very real. The nails were shaped just like that. So he comes out and he explains he has 11 nails. And he says something so powerful. And I had seen this kind of floating around on social media with people talking about Good Friday. It's this message, this sentiment that it wasn't actually the nails that held Jesus on the cross. It was his love of and his love for you and I. And that had been kind of floating around in my heart all day. So the pastor says, I have these 11 nails. And there's probably a good 150 people in the room. And he starts distributing them. He invites people up to take a nail, someone who's ready to leave something behind. Essentially, taking this nail is a way to carry your own cross and say goodbye to something that you no longer want to carry with you. And as he's holding these nails and he's talking about this, my body starts burning. It's getting really hot and buzzing with energy. And I felt like one of those is meant for you, Dani. And there's been other moments in life where I felt like this is your moment. This is for you. This was created for you. And I was too afraid to step forward. I was too afraid to reach out and grab it, whether it be literal or metaphorical, or I thought, no, this is for someone else. I shouldn't take up space. I should let someone else come in here. So again, a few people had walked up to receive one. The pastor was walking around the room. There were a couple people who he acknowledged, people who he knew their story and their journey. So he said a few words and why he wanted them to have one of these 11 nails. And there's 3 left. And everything is saying one of those is meant for you. Someone walks up. People are not jumping out of their seat. It's long periods of time are going by and the pastor's waiting, who is ready to come up. He's saying that, but you can also feel it in his energy in the silence. And then there's 2 left. And then there's 1, the 11th nail left. And he's asking, whose is this? And I am shaking and sweating at this point. No one steps forward. A few minutes go by, and I cannot stand there anymore. And I walk forward into the center of this sacred circle. And the pastor looks at me, he smiles and he nods and he hands me this nail. And the minute I grab it, the feelings that I felt in my body are indescribable. I walk back to my seat and sit down. I put my face in my hands. The nail is still in my hand, and I cannot stop crying. I see the beauty of it. I see the synchronicity of it. I see the perfection of it. And I see how I got what I wanted. And the way that it came could not have been any more perfect or any more powerful. And to make things even sweeter, again, since I recorded the first part of this episode a few days ago, I can't remember all of the ins and the outs. But I remember the morning after the plant medicine ceremony, and I was a little teary and a bit emotional. And I had told Stevie that I wanted a redemption. I know I told some of my clients that I wanted to engage in a plant medicine ceremony again in the future because I want a redemptive story. I wanted a second chance. And what I got really clear on, and Stevie helped me with this, was a redemption wasn't necessary because what I got was perfect. But I thought that was an interesting set of words and an interesting request and desire on my part, because that's not something I say often. And so as the service is coming to an end, we get to engage in something known as the Holy Communion, which I love. And at Christian churches, that's something that typically happens once a month. At Catholic churches where I grew up, it happens every Sunday. And so it's really special. I feel extra connected to services where we get to experience the Eucharist, the communion, which is essentially a representation of the body and blood of Christ. So you'll get a little wafer, or you'll get a piece of bread and a little cup of grape juice. If you're at a Catholic church, it's like a chalice of wine that everybody shares. During communion, a really lovely musician grabs his guitar and he starts to strum. And I instantly get chills because I know what song he's strumming along to. And then he has the most angelic voice and he starts singing. And what's interesting is the song that he is singing is not a traditional worship song. It is not a song that you often hear in church. In fact, I've never heard it in church. And it's a song called River, and it's by Leon Bridges. If you're familiar with it, hopefully you love it as much as I do. If you're not, go wherever you listen to your music, go listen to it right now. It's so good. Or listen to the rest of this podcast and then go listen to it. But this song holds more meaning for me than any other song that has ever existed. Almost 4 years ago, when I was pregnant with River, we had just found out he was a boy and we didn't have a name for him yet. We had a list of different names on a Post-it. We had come together as a family and each of us were throwing out different names. All of a sudden, while we were standing there in our kitchen 4 years ago, thinking about names, I blurted out the name River. And I feel like that's actually a trendy name for kids now. It wasn't then. I didn't know that there were other kids named River. And it was very out of the ordinary. My other kids are Haley and Hannah, very traditional names. So when I blurted it out, I almost surprised myself. I didn't know where that had come from. And my husband and my 2 daughters looked at me and they nodded and they smiled. So they added it to the list. We had like 5 or 6 different potential boy names when we found out we were having a boy. And we put that Post-it up on the refrigerator and it was there for a few weeks. And same kind of situation where the city we were living in, there were these new moon meditations that I loved going to. And there was one night, I wasn't sure if I was going to go. I was on the fence and it was like an hour before. And everything in me told me, you're supposed to be there. So made things happen, bought my ticket really quickly, got in the car, rushed there, did the meditation. And the meditation was the same every single month. I had done it before, but this time something felt different. And as soon as we came out of the meditation, this song, River, by Leon Bridges came on, which was interesting because the facilitator used the same playlist all of the time. So I knew what songs were going to come next. And River had never played before. So instantly, I look down at my belly, I place my hands on my belly, and I start crying. And I say, I hear you. I hear you. You want your name to be River. You had me blurt it out, and now you're using this song. And I was super emotional. I picked up my yoga mat and my journal, and I walked to my car, and I couldn't drive for over an hour because I couldn't stop crying. And I remember Googling what those lyrics meant. Do you know what they meant? The song River, written by Leon Bridges, is a song about redemption. It's a song about second chances, and it's a song about new beginnings. And so it was not lost on me that on Friday, having my encounter with Jesus, all of these synchronistic moments, holding this nail in my hand, an actual physical representation of Jesus, which is exactly what I wanted, and this song comes on. A song about redemptions, a song about second chances, a song that has me feel more connected, not only to my son, but my entire family, more so than any other song, any other object, other symbol. So powerful. So I feel like I should change the title of this podcast episode, but I'm not. Here's what happened. It took a week, exactly 1 week. I felt every experience that you could feel inside of the human condition. I walked myself through the highs and the lows, the discomfort. There was surrender, there was doubt, there was unease. And I got to a place of acceptance, and I trusted, even when it didn't make sense. And it was just so incredible. Again, it was okay if that experience didn't happen. I was complete, but there's just something so beautiful about how all of this unfolded. And so I just want to share with you that if you're in a season of, where is it? Where is the thing? I'm not getting what I want. Will I ever? I want to encourage you to hold the faith, to trust that it is coming. I want to encourage you not to give up. God is never late. The miracle that you're waiting for is already on its way, and it's going to show up on time. And if you're craving a redemption moment like I was, I want to invite you to believe that maybe it's closer than you think. I love you so much. Thank you for listening to the entirety of the first part of this episode. And I was so excited to share this addendum, this redemption story, the miracle. I got what I wanted. I got what I wanted, and I got what I needed. God is good. I love you so much, and I will see you on the next one.